Okay, so it's me again. I'll be doing chapter 4. Chapter 4, which is entitled You Have to Believe in Yourself. Now, for the past few months, and I don't know if this is a direct result of COVID or what have you, it's probably has its root cause in like my childhood and home life and all this good mumbo jumbo that I'm not going to get into. Actually, I'm gonna read a thing that I wrote, a piece of poetry that I wrote for one of my classes that'll kind of help set my developing intellectual framework about both myself and my vocation in life. But before I do that, I would like to speak on the anxiety monster that I've been battling. So, I don't know, I've always been a really extroverted person. I don't know when this anxiety thing started. All I know is that it is a pain in the butt to try and overcome. And recently, like in the past week or so, one of my friends was like, the reason why you're nervous is because you don't have a script. You're not nervous at work, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I have a script, I have a thing that I say. Like, I basically say the same thing every single day. Did you blend your shake? Did you get the sauces? How you doing on drive-thru? Can you guys hurry up? Oh my gosh, you're doing so great. Look at you, you rock. But once I'm outside of that known setting and I'm placed in like school or I'm hanging out with friends, it's like, hi, here's my cup, my coffee. How's your day going? Do people even say how's your day going anymore? Like, oh my gosh, like, oh wow, I look like a freaking 30-year-old woman already. Like, I have all these weird tendencies. I'm so weird. I'm so awkward. Like, oh, it's such a bad spiral effect. Oh my gosh. But I'm getting over that slowly, very, very slowly. Part of it is me just slowing down with my speech. Another thing is really just allowing myself the space to think and breathe and make mistakes. And that's been a really big thing that I've been dealing with, not only as a perfectionist, but just because like I was never allowed the room to make any mistakes. And so as a burgeoning leader, I need to make mistakes. Like, I need to be okay with making mistakes because I need to learn. I still, like, despite being a junior in college, my learning curve hasn't improved since like middle school. Like, I'm still basically at the same level. I've just improved my vocabulary a little bit more, and I write slightly more cohesive essays, but there's been no real challenge for me beyond, just turn in the homework on time. You'll probably get an A in the class. Like, it's not that complicated. But this idea of authentically engaging with the materials presented to me in a way that not only impacts me profoundly, but in a way that helps kind of reshape my framework for understanding the world has helped in combating this anxiety. A lot of it has been a great deal of egocentrism, and just being like, oh, well, what do you think of me? As if the whole world is thinking about me. We think that the whole world is thinking about us, but if we remember that, we are the star in our own play, people are the stars in their own lives, like, it lessens the anxiety burden just a little bit. Another thing that I'll share before I do my poem thing is this idea of creating one goal a day. So basically from this chapter, what I've taken about it is it's really important to believe in yourself. Wow, the stereotypical answer. Great. So the way that I've implemented trying to believe in myself more is three things. One is by implementing one goal a day that I really need to accomplish that's going to get me further ahead, either in my economic literacy, building up my finances. I want to own businesses. I want to be successful. I want to have money, create generational wealth, stop generational curses, all this good stuff. So either related to economics or related to my academics or related to my job. So if I can turn my homework assignments in on time for that day, and if I can make it to all of my classes for that day on time and not fall asleep in them, then it's a really good day. If I can make it to work on time, then it's also a really good day. And I have to accept those small victories because I get burdened down a lot with the big picture and grandiose ideas rather than just taking it small chunks at a time. Now, the other things, two things that I've been working on, but I need to implement with more consistency, are morning affirmations and morning motivational lectures or speeches that I listen to. Now, I really believe that the morning time is the best time to like get your mindset right for the day. And I've started waking up like around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning for the past 3 weeks. And I have, admittedly, fallen right back asleep most of the time. But I have the option of getting up. And if I had taken that option, where would I be now? So much further along. But I want to start doing morning motivations, and I used to think that they were kind of stupid. I'm like, this is pointless. But after listening to like a lot of my peers, like Grace and Ramla, who are really gung-ho for this kind of personal development kind of thing, it's like, all right, I can drink the Kool-Aid, drink the coffee. So that's something that I'm trying to implement with more consistency. Another thing that I would like to implement with more consistency is listening to morning motivational lectures and speakers. There's this dude called like Les Brown on YouTube. He's not on YouTube, like he's an older dude from an older generation, but I have discovered him off of YouTube. I didn't know anything about him, but I really like him. So I keep listening to his motivational stuffs on motivational speeches and motivational lectures via YouTube, and they really hype me up in the morning. I'm over here feeling myself. I'm like, yes, I can do it. I'm so motivated. Ooh. And it's good. And these two things also help deal with anxiety. So that being said, let me answer the lovely question that Brittany has posed for. So, sorry. The 1 goal a day thing is asking myself, today, what will I do that matters? Like that is my framework that I'm working with right now. This will probably develop into something different, but right now that's helping me get through the anxiety, and it's also helping me maintain my workload. Just a simple, what is one thing that I can accomplish today? And I think about that right when I wake up in the morning, and I go to bed asking myself, what did I do today? And instead of feeling all like, oh, well, I didn't solve poverty, so I'm a failure. Now it's like, yeah, I went to all my classes on time, and I turned in some homework assignments. Like, this is a pretty good day. So that's been my thing. Now, for the poetry piece, this is entitled Dual Identities. Basically, within the education system, there is not a lot of room for the other, the voice of the other, or the experiences of the other to be validated in traditional settings. I need some water. I'm so sorry. And as a black person, I didn't know if I'm black. I am black. It is extremely difficult to try and deal with this dissonance that goes on, because you don't acknowledge it. You don't even know it or recognize it up until like high school, like middle school, high school, is when people really start like, I feel oppressed. I don't know what this feeling is. I don't know where it's stemming from, but I don't feel good and I don't feel safe in this setting. And I have also gone through that. So, obviously, I've surpassed that a little bit, but that is also where this stemming anxiety comes from. And this whole notion of, well, I need to be twice as good to get half of what you got. So, as the poem states. And so for this, to preface, this is an assignment that I did for my educational psychology course, but it is relevant to this course as well, at least to this chapter. So it's a video assignment that I had to do. And so for this video, I'd like to share a piece of me that deals with the complexity of living with a double-edged sword of duplicity, peau noire, masque blanc. I've mastered 3 languages onto my tongue to get the white man to see that I exceed beyond his low standards preordained for me, to show off to my white teachers that I was more literate than they would ever be, yet they still had the caucasity to sneer down at me. I was at risk of the ostracization from my people and my society. I am the 10% that is supposed to succeed. I'm trying to deal with what's real and get back to my community, my personal development and social development from the polluted waters of my fear-ridden womb. I am the fruit of my mother, and I sing a 3/5 tune. I compromise my personality to make it easier for you. My temperament is temperamental, and I wonder how many other students of color are silenced in English classrooms. And I wonder how, in this hostile environment with daily interactions with this subverted violence, how I developed an effortful control to not stand up on my 8th grade seat and demand why we kept learning about all these white people, why history never seemed to mention me. And I'm trying to make sense of my decade-old wounds, results of authoritative parenting. He tried to break my spirit and shove his milk down my throat. I tried to make sense of my own maltreatment physically at his hands and psychologically under this system of oppression. For me, there was no socialization outside of my books. And this culture shock between us three, the school system, my burgeoning self, and Anthony, created a neuroticism in an agreeably extroverted child. I'm trying to make sense of it. So I take this thing called psychology and I pair it with the acute understanding of history so I can develop myself, but this damn anxiety got me all kinds of fucked up. And my own self-efficacy compromised by being 3/5 less a black woman with a white man's education, I was driven to insanity. Trying to deal with the cognitive dissonance that I faced with each class's subverted hostility. This is the world that children of color see. But it's up to me, as a teacher, and combating my biases, building up my students' self-efficacy, loving them like nobody loved me, creating safe spaces where they can explore their dual identities. So, thank you. So it goes back to this idea of believing in yourself, and a lot of students, especially students of color, do not have positive self-efficacy models, self-efficacy models modeled for them within their immediate surroundings, such as their home life, and then they go to school and they're taught by white teachers that don't understand the cultural nuances, and so now it's like a whole extra feeling of like, well, I'm not good enough for this teacher, I'm not good enough for this class, I'm just gonna fail in life, like there's no point. So this whole chapter of having to believe in yourself for me is really important because like it all starts with your brain. It all starts in the mental. And if you believe that you're not going to amount to anything, and your teachers believe that, and your family believes it, and the society believes it, then of course you're not going to amount to anything. It's going to be a crime-ridden life that you're living. You're probably going to get stopped by the police. You're probably going to be locked up in jail. You're probably going to be on the streets not doing anything productive with your life. Like it is. I would dare call it common sense and proper planning for an infrastructure of a society. But I digress. It all starts with the self and developing good self-efficacy models. And now finally being able to relate this back to my own educational experience as a student, but also the educational experiences I helped to cultivate as a teacher. That's going to be a really big, like a central aspect of my classrooms, I'm thinking, is developing my students' sense of self in a more positive light via the curriculum and the content that I'm teaching them. And I'm really curious to see how I can do that within the content of a music classroom, the context, of a music classroom. I'm not too sure about that, but that's okay because that's why I'm also studying Spanish and history, so it's fine. But I'm excited, to say the least, in how it is that I shall be a leader both within the classroom setting and as a student right now. So, chapter 4.